This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. We all love A Cinderella Story. No, not that specific movie in particular, though I will be getting to that, nor do I specifically mean the Disney classic or even the original folktale. What I mean is, most of us are suckers for an underdog story. Tales of someone rising from rags to riches, of triumphing over oppression, or the darkest moments in one's life. Whether we know it for the classic Disney movie, the unapologetically disturbing Grimm Brothers version, or even its early Chinese origins where her fairy godmother, or rather guardian spirit, is a 10-foot fish, at the core of the Cinderella tale is just this, a story of unwavering hope. Too bad most of its modern remakes are complete and utter trash. Hey, what's up guys? It's me in my prom dress at 1 a.m. in the morning. So it seems like no fairy tale has been retold in cinema as much as Cinderella. Just look at this list. Cinderella, what the fuck? Of the most popular adaptations, if we're going by faithful remakes of the Charles Perrault version of the tale, that is with the famous glass slippers, pumpkin, fairy godmother. We've of course got Walt Disney's 1950 animated classic, the Rodgers and Hammerstein TV musical in 1957 starring Julie Andrews, later remade in 1965 with Leslie Ann Warren, and then again in 1997 with Brandy Norwood. More recently, we had Lily James and Cate Blanchett in Kenneth Branagh's 2015 reimagining, and The Milk Factory shows no signs of slowing down, cause we're getting yet another one, apparently this year, starring Idina Menzel as Cinderella's stepmother. It's reportedly set to be a live-action musical, which, not gonna lie, kind of a slave for those. But as I said, these are just retellings faithful to the original folktale. They're still all set in ye olden times, with characters of actual royalty and fairy ladies doing their magic. Hollywood's of course got its share of more modernized adaptations, including what was actually my favorite film as a 12-year-old teeny bopper, A Cinderella Story. Now originally this video was gonna be me half walking down memory lane, half doing a movie review / rant as I revisit this one film, and the Selena Gomez spiritual sequel to see how well they hold up for me. You can probably guess the answer to that. But then to my mortified surprise, I discovered that there was not one, not two, but 3 whole-ass film installments to this franchise after Selena's in 2008, one of them being a Christmas special. So because I masochistically like cringy things, and the poll voters have spoken, I thought why not dive into and review the complete set. Keep in mind that I'd only seen these 2 movies before deciding to make this video, so the rest were quite the experience. Because of this, and because I actually want to give each and every movie a proper review, even if they're not totally deserving of it, to be honest. Without making this a single lengthy video, I've decided to do something I haven't before, and that is split this video into 2 parts. This first one focusing on the 2 most well-known A Cinderella Story films, and my favorite ones growing up, and the second part are diving into these 3 movies I had no idea existed until now. And perhaps you didn't either. For good reason. Plus some actually good movies that follow the Cinderella Story formula that I thought I'd recommend just to end things on a positive note. Don't get me wrong, bitching about something for hours on end is pretty fun, but I do want to leave you guys with something good to come out of this. But before we get into all that, shout out to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. If you're like most people and think that content restrictions are the absolute worst, because they are, or are worried about shady internet people spying on your online activity, because they can, then a VPN may be an ideal investment. Surfshark is a VPN, or virtual private network, that basically places your laptop, desktop, or mobile device anywhere in the world, giving you access to the content from that country and masking your true IP address, identity, and location in the process. Their service is available as both an app and a browser extension and is incredibly easy to use and set up. Once you log in, you get an instant display of all the server locations you can connect to, and there's a generous list of countries to choose from, and all you gotta do is click and connect to the one you want. It literally just takes seconds. Like I said, because Surfshark connects you to another country's server, this means you can access content or streaming services from that area, so on top of blocked websites. This also includes Netflix, Disney+, Hulu. I actually used it to check out one of the movies on this review list, and oh boy, I hope you use your subscription on better things, which I eventually did with some actually good movies I review at the end of part 2. And I got to rewatch my favorite episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which ironically is now only available on UK Netflix, so Thanks, Surfshark. Other than that, you get an extra layer of security because your VPN also encrypts your data to keep your personal info safe and your browsing activity hidden. If you sign up with Surfshark, you get one account to use on an unlimited number of devices, and if you use my code AnnaIsabel, you can get 83% off your subscription plus 3 extra months free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it out for yourself risk-free. Link in the description below. Anyhow, I was honestly wondering what it was that inspired a 5-film series under the same title. Just how many unique takes and twists were they able to carve out of the same plot? Was Hilary Duff's iconic teen flick that good that it left this glittery teen legacy in its wake? My adult self had a lot of doubt, for good reason, but the incredibly nostalgic Disney Channel loving child in me was morbidly curious. So I decided to find out. So, A Cinderella Story was, in fact, my favorite teen or tween flick back in the day. I think it was this movie that made me a huge fan of Hilary Duff and her music for a time, and I would literally fangirl about this movie to everyone I knew. I didn't see that many movies as a kid, don't bully me. But anyway, this 2004 retelling is the original, or at least the most popular teen modernization of Cinderella, where instead of our leading lady being a mere maidservant in the 19th century, she's instead a super relatable high schooler who joins our long line of supposedly ugly or plain-looking leading heroines. We've of course still got our staple bitchy stepsisters complete with a bitchy stepmom, and instead of a prince, we have a young, hot Chad Michael Murray. So the plot of the film starts out with your typical Cinderella formula. Sam Montgomery and her dad are living a nice, quiet life until he meets and for some reason falls in love with a vain and greedy woman named Fiona. They eventually end up getting hitched, and not only does Sam end up with an unbearable stepmom, she also gains 2 equally awful out-of-step sisters. After Sam's dad tragically dies in the Northridge earthquake, which was actually a real event that happened in 1994, I didn't know that, he seemingly leaves no will, and now left under her stepmother's thumb, she's forced to basically become their daily personal servant. Fiona takes over her dad's diner where Sam works part-time to save money for college, and not just any college, Princeton at that, which, not gonna lie, was a cute choice for the movie. Fortunately, Sam does find solace in the time she spends with her best friend Carter, who's also an outcast and a cringy aspiring actor.
Anything is possible if you just audition today, son? Yeah, 5 o'clock, alright?
And her close friendship with the diner supervisor, Rhonda, the modern stand-in for her fairy godmother. The supposed heart of this film, of course, is the honestly super cookie cutter vanilla romance between Hilary Duff's Sam and Chad Michael Murray's Austin, who's your textbook captain of the football team, Mr. Popular. In contrast to Sam, who's this ostracized, unattractive geek. Just look at this hideous loser. The writers for this movie attempted to put a little twist on the Cinderella romance formula, making Sam and Austin secret mystery pen pals. Sam stumbled upon him online while lurking in the forums of a Princeton chat room. They strike up an online friendship, and turns out he's super into poetry and aspires to go to Princeton too. But little does she know that she's actually talking to the supposed king of their high school hierarchy. The turning point in their budding romance, however, is when they decide to finally meet in person at their school's Halloween dance. Like Cinderella, however, Sam is forced to stay out of the event by her stepmom, who gives her a shift at the diner that night. But of course, with the help of fairy godmother Rhonda and her best friend Carter, they hatch up a scheme to get her to the ball and have her back to her shift by midnight. So that's the gist of the main plot, and I will get to the climax in the end in a bit, but I just gotta say that the love story was kinda lame. And being the core focus of the story, that's not great. I mean, aside from the fact that Sam is literally your epitome of a bland, super nice, pure female character who could do no wrong, which isn't bad, but it just kind of makes her a bit boring. I didn't like Austin, as pretty as Chad Michael Murray is. He's, first off, a tad stupid, and this is going to be a bit of a trend with all the other Prince Charming stand-ins on this list. When the ball rolls around, Sam shows up in Rhonda's wedding dress and a white mask. She of course immediately catches Austin's attention, who walks up to her, and the two admit that they are, in fact, the pen pals from the Princeton Forum. Thing is, Austin's actually seen and talked to Sam a whole bunch of times face to face, and not a single bell rang in this man's head when they meet again on the dance floor. He is literally swept up in the mystery of who this girl girl could be. It's not like she even changed her voice or anything, she literally just has a piece of cloth covering her cheekbones. But because she gets nervous over finding out her mystery man is actually at the top of the school food chain, she decides to continue hiding her identity in fear of getting found out as just being a mere diner waitress. Girl, if you think this guy's gonna ditch you over something that trivial, he ain't worth sticking around for, but alas, we have a little romantic garden walk where Austin plays 30 questions in an attempt to find out who she is.
I think I remember those eyes.
Yes, because you literally saw her a few hours ago. So anyway, they find a gazebo with some random musicians, and they start playing live music for the two of them. And in true fairy tale fashion, Sam and Austin have a private slow dance. But just before he could lift that mask off her face, he gets cock-blocked by her phone alarm. Nice. That's her cue to leave to get back to the diner before Fiona rolls around, and in this little modern tale, she leaves her cell phone in place of a glass slipper. Austin then goes nuts, trying to find out who this mystery Cinderella is, that he literally swarms his high school with all these creepy flyers trying to track her down, and it's like, yes, this is what a stable person would do. And then, almost as if to frustrate the audience further, he literally locks eyes with her in the hallway. Dude.
I think I remember those eyes. You're so beautiful.
And I guess the film really wanted to hammer home how dense this dude is, because he sees her, up close and personal, again at the diner later that day. You know Princeton is for smart people, right? But on top of the fact that Prince Charming isn't exactly the sharpest tool in the shed, he's also not a very worthy love interest in my opinion. So I forgot to mention that the entire time he was texting Sam, or his mystery girl, he was also in a committed relationship with the high school queen bee, Shelby Cummings. He breaks up with her in front of their friends on the night of the dance just to get with Sam. So kind of a dick move. Then later on in the film, Sam's stepsisters get a hold of her online chat threads with Austin, and in an effort to sabotage the romantic charade they have going on, they, with the help of Shelby Cummings and her evil cheerleading minions, decide to out Sam in the middle of a pep rally skit. They basically do a live parody of her and Austin's messages, and then declare Sam to be the mystery Cinderella all along. They find this display of bullying hilarious.
That's so funny.
Then everyone just starts chanting "Diner Girl" to humiliate her. And Austin, man of the hour, just sits there with a face that looks like he just stepped in shit. He almost even looks disappointed. Are you f***ing serious? Dude, she looks the exact same. You went through these extreme lengths to find out who she is. At least say something. But he doesn't. In fact, he doesn't even bother talking to her after the incident, not even online. You just saw your supposed Cinderella get absolutely piled out there, and you're not even gonna try and console her? Like, literally at this point, I wasn't rooting for him to get with her. But of course, as some last-minute redemption arc, he does attempt to go after the girl, and literally could have not picked a better time than during the last play of his school's football game, just as his team was about to win. Very cool, very nice. He even threw in the classic, "I'm not throwing away my dream, Dad. I'm throwing away yours." Yeah, tell him. So Sam, of course, ends up with her prince, and she finds her dad's hidden will, which grants her back ownership of the house and the diner. And she goes and lives happily ever after with Austin in Princeton. Oh, and Fiona and her twin goons end up working for Rhonda, which was a nice touch. Alright, so off the bat, aside from the super cheesy, flimsy-ass love story, I was totally expecting to rip the rest of this movie apart. I mean, seeing its reviews online, I chalked up my past love for it as just being a kid and not having seen better films. And I thought I was just gonna drag it by the end of this. But maybe some of its overly harsh criticism is a tad undeserved, or I simply just could not fully shake off the nostalgia goggles. But I actually didn't really end up hating this one after rewatching it. Again, it could be the nostalgia talking, but it wasn't complete garbage. I'm not gonna say it's a great movie, cause it's not. It's alright though, if not kinda lame in parts. The best bits about it were seeing Sam deal and eventually overcome the abusive dynamic between her and her stepfamily, and Rhonda's support of her was really heartwarming to see. Also, completely unironically, the soundtrack is lit. I particularly love the cover of Jesse McCartney's Best Day of My Life that was playing during the ball scene. We had Jimmy Eat World, the Goo Goo Dolls, I'll Be by Edwin McCain during one of the dance sequences. It was a blast for my 2000s iPod playlist, and I loved it. Also, the score is by Christoph Beck, who can can make any movie sound good. He also composed the music for Frozen, WandaVision, and 2011's The Muppets. Of course, the movie does fall back on a ton of cliche high school movie stereotypes, and Sam's adversaries all act cartoonishly evil. After a while, it seemed like all Shelby was missing was a mustache twirl, and it doesn't help that Sam is characterized to be this literal saint. But all in all, I had a mostly comfy time watching it, I don't know. With a bit more doctoring, especially when it comes to Austin, could have been decent. But I'm gonna give it a rating of not too bad, which is sadly also the highest rating on this list. Cause see, at least I can see a bit of effort in this film. It's dumb in parts, but I can at least see that they tried. But strap in, cause we're only gonna go downhill from here. My first reaction after having rewatched this film was, why? Real talk, I actually think Selena Gomez is a pretty good actress. Ironically enough, I've only seen her stuff on Disney, and then that one movie with Joey King, but I always thought despite the poor writing on a lot of the Disney Channel content, she actually had talent. But yikes, this movie did not do her, or anyone in it for that matter, any favors. And funny enough, I actually think it was meant to be an acting departure from her Disney Channel exclusives. So in this supposed sequel to Hilary Duff's film, even though it has absolutely nothing to do with the events of that movie, we have a plot that's basically Step Up meets Cinderella. Another Cinderella Story opens with a dream musical sequence, and look, Selena may be a great actress, but singing, at least in her early days, wasn't always her strong point in my opinion. I actually haven't heard much of her music now, so I don't know, maybe she has gotten better. Anyway, we're introduced to Mary, the adopted daughter of a washed-up pop star named Dominique Blatt, played by the always entertaining Jane Lynch. Sadly, she's not given a very entertaining script to work with, but what can you do? And just like Selena, I don't think this movie deserved her. Dominique is pretty much the evil stepmom in this movie, complete with two annoying bitchy daughters named Britt and Bree. All three of them treat Mary like a slave, having her running errands and doing all the household chores, you know, typical Cinderella stuff. While Mary, on the other hand, aspires to be a professional dancer and dreams of attending the Manhattan Academy of Performing Arts. She gets by the struggles of high school with her best friend Tammy, who also functions as a fairy godmother of sorts. Prince Charming in this movie is played by Drew Seeley, a celebrity pop star named Joey Parker, who decides to go back to school, at Mary's no less, for his senior year. With the help of his best friend slash manager Dustin, who gave himself the title The Funk, very cool. He also plans to host a dance contest where the winner will star as his partner in his next music video. We all know where this is going. So you know how I didn't like the romance in A Cinderella Story? Well, in this one, I hated it. While the original may have pulled out every romantic cliche out of their ass, at least in terms of teen flicks, this one did the exact same thing, except with the most minimal effort possible. Well, of course, we've got the most basic meet cute where Joey Parker accidentally runs into Mary, and we get that instant whimsical music as he falls in love with her at first sight. And then bam, just like that, the movie introduces the obligatory queen bee of the film, Natalia. She's also Joey's ex-girlfriend and evidently wants to get back with him. Because of course, we've got to have whatever the female version of a cockblock is. Joey then hosts a dance class with a two-way mirror, during which Mary sneaks in and starts a sensual dance duet with the guy without him knowing. And I guess the sexual charge can rip through walls because this guy started to get turned on for some reason. I'm also guessing the movie was really proud of how it played out the first meet cute because they decided to repeat it, this time when Joey attends Dominique's dinner slash business meeting in hopes of collaborating with him. Haha, hilarious. Of course, every Cinderella tale needs some form of a ball, and true to the character, Mary finds a way to escape her responsibilities for a night to attend the event. This time, everyone is wearing a mask, I'm guessing the kind that somehow warps how you see a reality, cause literally no one is able to recognize each other. Anyway, Joey is like stunned by Mary's appearance in the most boringly shot entrance imaginable, and decides to dance with her, or rather a body double, somehow whipping out polished, perfect choreography that they never practiced together. Joey? Are you serious? After finding out her masked dancer is actually Joey and being mortified about it, Mary flees the scene, this time not leaving a slipper or a cell phone, but a Zune. What an ancient artifact of the time. Like Austin from the original film, Joey is suddenly possessed with the drive to find his mystery girl despite not even having 5 minutes of conversation with her, and announces his mission to the school. He also mentions that whoever can tell him the top 4 most played songs on the device is the one. And if that isn't a stupid plan, I don't know what is. First off, what if she doesn't know what her top 4 most played songs are? I don't know what my top songs are on Spotify. Secondly, what is the point of getting all these people to line up to prove themselves. Some of them obviously don't look a thing like Mary. Is this the best you can come up with? After attending Britt and Bree's birthday party where they humiliate Mary in front of everyone, he eventually does find out that she, in fact, is his mystery girl. And all she had to do was grab a portable CD player and blast the exact song that they danced to. She didn't dance, she didn't say anything, she didn't even mention her Zune. And that's all it took. So he asks her out and they both danced happily ever after. I'm just kidding, some more stupid shit goes down. I was actually pretty surprised that they sorta somewhat got together with 40 minutes of runtime left in the movie. So surely they had another twist coming, and boy was it a waste of my time. Well, I guess not fully, because here I am making content out of it, but anyway. So our little trio of mean girls find out about the date and attempt to stop it by assigning Mary with a ridiculous number of house chores, one of which includes repainting the entire pool. It doesn't stop our two leads though, they somehow manage to turn these tasks into a little date/dance session. With his ex, Natalia, about to burst a nerve, she plots a scheme with Britt and Bree to trick Mary into visiting his house. And when she gets there, she finds Joey in bed with Natalia. With Natalia sitting on the bed, to be clear. They don't even look like they're having a pleasant conversation, but of course this leaves Mary skedaddling in tears, while her sisters delightfully watch from the bushes. Turns out Natalia had broken into his house in an attempt to seduce Joey, and they lured Mary over in the hopes of having her catch the two, I don't know, getting it on I guess. So if there's one thing more hernia-inducing in these teen rom-com films than reducing your characters to irrational dumbasses, it's stripping them of any ability to properly communicate on top of everything else. You see, the next day, as Joey attempts to talk to Mary, she doesn't even attempt to confront him on what happened. Instead, she sticks to assumptions and starts talking in these vague sentences because plot, I guess, but as if to frustrate viewers more, assuming they hadn't already turned off their brains at this point. When Dustin and Tammy attempt to confront her about the whole misunderstanding, neither bother to tell her directly about what went down. Actually, yeah, side note, these two were confronted by Joey earlier on and he basically cleared the air with them, so they know what's up.
See, look, Mary, look, sometimes in relationships, you know, there could be misunderstandings, bumpy roads and stuff, you know, but you and JP, you guys are like moths to flames. You keep attracting each other, and we are friends. We see that. You have to trust your friends.
Oh my god, just tell her the truth. Anyway, they managed to drag Mary along to Joey's dance competition. It's as boring as you expect, with a lot of hilarious jokes. But of course, poor Joey can't take his mind off the girl of his dreams, so he does what any gallant romantic would do and negs her to get up on stage for a dance battle. And we're submitted to a couple of average moves for a good 10 minutes until they burst into the admittedly somewhat catchy song that was obviously shoehorned in to get radio plays. And then our story bubbles to an intense, nail-biting climax as judges decide on their contest winner, and what do you know? Oh my gosh, it's Mary. I did not see that coming. The two make out on stage, she gets to star in his new music video, and she also wins a scholarship to the Manhattan Academy of Performing Arts, and the entire segment ends with some A+ comedy. So needless to say, this movie is garbage. As a young teen, I enjoyed it. I remember not thinking it was as good as A Cinderella Story, but I remember having fun with it and liking Selena Gomez. And to be fair to her, I feel like she did the best she could with what she was given, but I don't know if I hallucinated a decent movie at the time because, oh man, this movie was trash. I honestly gave up with trying to give it a fair shot like halfway into the film. I knew it was a lost cause. With Hilary Duff's one, it admittedly had its moments, so I was constantly teetering between, oh, it's aight, oh, it's lame, oh, it's aight. But this was a train wreck, and it was pretty much unsalvageable. The cinematography, first off, is non-existent. I swear almost every scene in this film is shot in the most vanilla way possible. Almost none of them look interesting or creative. It's just shy of looking like a Hallmark flick. I guess there was this one scene. I liked this one scene. This single segment of 5 seconds from the entire 90-minute movie that I thought looked decently cool. Everything else looked bland as f***. Even the climactic dance scenes weren't that fun to watch, and these guys are meant to be the best of the best? I'm guessing on top of uninspired direction and camera work, there's also a criminal lack of exciting choreography that makes this entire sequence pretty subpar, which is ironic considering that the whole movie is about dancing, and it kinda sucks given that it's meant to be the film's grand payoff. Most of the humor was also, haha, she fall down, and hee hee, she pulled total goofy face. It was the lowest comedy effort possible, if that's even what it is. I cannot even begin to count the number of Instagram comedy quality jokes that they chose to end scenes on. Like, literally, this is the final wisecrack they leave us with. And yeah, alright, it's a fluffy, dumb movie made for kids, which I always think is a poor excuse, because you know there are kids' movies that are good, right? But you think they'd be able to at least nail the trusted template that is A Cinderella Story, by at least having a satisfying victory for the underdog and having memorable villains you love to hate. Sad to say that Mary's stepfamily were less like wicked adversaries and more like failed comedic reliefs. Jane Lynch is fantastic. I've always been a fan of hers, and she's the closest thing we get to funny in this film, probably because she's mastered comedic timing and delivery, but sadly this does not make her effectively evil, more like entertainingly pathetic. And the same can be said for the stepsisters, sadly without the entertaining factor. Natalia also seems like the living version of a bad fanfic Queen Bee cliche. Everything she does and says is just so unrealistically bitchy. I feel more sorry for her than intimidated. It's not like the two-dimensionally way they wrote Shelby Cummings was any better, but it was more believable than this, which says a lot. She also actually has a clique of quote-unquote cool friends, while this girl's only crew are these two step-goofs for some reason. Anyway, I feel like I've dragged the movie out of its skin at this point, so I will admit that if there's one thing I actually liked about this retelling, it's that they actually gave Cinderella a bit more spine, and a few snarky lines actually. It's a refreshing change from Hilary Duff's angelic yet extremely passive Sam, a character that veers more towards the damsel in distress trope, which I mean, come on, is pretty boring. Not sure if it was actually influenced by this, but there were historical versions of Cinderella that actually portrayed her as more witty and cunning, who used her cleverness to continuously outwit her stepfamily and eventually gain her triumphant fairy tale ending. She was kind but not necessarily soft. Giambattista Basile labeled her the cat Cinderella in his 1634 version, while Marie Catherine D'Aulnoy's 1697 version gave her the name Finette, meaning little clever girl. Selena Gomez's Mary was like these depictions, which I liked because having protagonists with a little more attitude came off far more relatable than a supposed heroine who just lies low and fully submits to her oppressed servant role. And Selena Gomez also isn't bad. Like I said, she did what she could with what she was given. But hey, you can't turn shit into gold. And that's where pretty much all the good stuff ends. She deserved way better than this, to be honest, and so did my 12-year-old self. So that's our little trip down memory lane for this first part. I know I spent quite a bit of time running through these two movies, and honestly, just because they held sentimental value, they'll probably be the longest of the 5 reviews I have in store. It was just so interesting to experience these movies as an adult and find out just how mediocre and downright atrocious they actually are. And I do want to rant about why so many teen films like these, even with such a classic, tried and true formula like Cinderella's, or any other type of underdog, rags to riches type story, must always be so mind-numbingly dumb. But we're not done with the film series just yet. Now that I've effectively spat on my childhood, it's time to regrettably highlight this franchise's later spawn. 3 movies no one asked for, shouldn't have been made, and shouldn't have garnered any semblance of attention, and yet, there I was on a Saturday night, binging them back to back for YouTube. And boy, can I not wait for others to suffer with me, but alas, the pain will have to wait until part 2 of this review, which should be out pretty soon, so keep an eye out. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this little blast from the past. I promise you, the worst is yet to come. Don't forget that if you're looking for a safer and freer internet browsing experience, you can sign up to Surfshark VPN today through the link and promo code in my description. If you like this video and want to see more pop culture related content like this one, be sure to leave a like and maybe subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in part 2.